Deep in the heart of an unexplored jungle, on a planet far from Earth, a group of human explorers moved carefully through thick vines and towering trees. Their boots sank slightly into the soft ground as they pushed forward, scanning their surroundings with advanced equipment. They were searching for anything unusual, signs of life, technology, or resources that might benefit humanity. What they found, however, was something none of them could have predicted. It started with a faint sound, a whimper, almost too soft to hear over the rustling leaves and distant calls of unknown creatures. Alex Carter, the leader of the expedition, stopped abruptly and raised his hand, signaling the others to halt. His sharp eyes scanned the area until they landed on a crumpled shape lying near the base of a massive tree. "Over there," he whispered, pointing toward the shadowy figure. Karen Blake, his closest teammate, stepped forward cautiously, her weapon ready but lowered. As they approached, the shape came into focus. It was small, covered in sleek silver fur streaked with black markings. Its golden eyes blinked weakly, filled with fear and pain. It looked like a cub, though not of any species they had ever seen before. The creature's body was trembling, and its breathing was shallow. Nearby, scattered pieces of metal and debris hinted at a crash. An alien ship, perhaps. This is one of them," Karen murmured, her voice barely audible. She didn't need to explain who them were. Everyone knew. This cub belonged to a species infamous across the galaxy, the apex predators. Ruthless, intelligent, and feared by all, these beings had earned their reputation as unstoppable hunters. Yet here was one of their young, abandoned and helpless. Sam Dawson, a scientist on the team, frowned deeply. "We should leave it," he said firmly. "If its kind finds out we've interfered, they'll see it as a threat. And honestly, do we really want to raise something like that?" He gestured toward the cub, his tone uneasy. But Alex wasn't listening. He crouched down slowly, keeping his movements deliberate so as not to startle a frightened creature. Reaching into his pack, he pulled out a ration bar and broke off a piece. Holding it out carefully, he spoke in a low, calming voice. "Hey there, little guy. We're not going to hurt you." The cub hesitated, its ears flicking back and forth. For a moment, it seemed like it might lash out, but hunger won over fear. With a tentative step forward, it sniffed the offering before taking it gingerly in its jaws. Encouraged, Alex reached out further, letting the cub sniff his hand. To everyone's surprise, it didn't bite or growl. It simply stared at him with those piercing golden eyes. Karen watched the scene unfold, her heart pounding. She glanced at the others, noting the unease on their faces. "We can't just leave it here," she said finally, breaking the silence. "Look at it. It's starving, injured, and alone. If we walk away, it'll die. And what happens when it grows up?" Sam shot back, crossing his arms. "You think it'll stay friendly? These things are born killers, Karen. We're talking about raising a ticking time bomb." Alex stood up, brushing dirt off his knees. His expression was resolute. "Maybe, but right now, it's just a scared kid. I say we take it back to the outpost and figure things out from there." He turned to Karen. "What do you think?" She hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Let's do it." As they prepared to carry the cub back to their shuttle, none of them realized the weight of the decision they had just made. This tiny creature, rejected by its own kind, would soon become more than just a rescued animal. It would test the limits of their compassion, challenge their fears, and force them to confront questions about what it truly meant to be human. Back at the research outpost, the mood was tense. The cub, now named Rin by Alex, lay curled up on a makeshift bed in the corner of the medical bay. Karen had cleaned his wounds and fed him, but the creature still looked fragile, its golden eyes darting around the room as if waiting for danger to strike. The rest of the team gathered in the main hall to discuss what came next. "We can't keep it here," Sam Dawson said firmly, pacing back and forth. His face was flushed with frustration. This isn't some stray dog we picked up off the street. It's an apex predator. Do you even realize how dangerous that is? Alex Carter leaned against the wall, arms crossed. He didn't look convinced. Right now, it's just a cub. And it's hurt. We've taken care of worse risks before. Exactly. Sarah Monroe chimed in, her voice sharp. As the medic, she had seen enough injuries to know how quickly things could spiral out of control. What happens when it grows bigger? Stronger. Those claws aren't just for show, Alex. One swipe, and someone could end up dead. Karen Blake stepped forward, her hands clasped tightly together. She had spent hours with Rin already, feeding him and keeping him calm. I understand your concerns, but I think we're jumping ahead. Right now, he's scared and alone. If we treat him with kindness, maybe he'll learn to trust us instead of seeing us as threats. Sam scoffed. Trust. You're talking about a species that doesn't hesitate to wipe out entire colonies. Trust isn't exactly their thing. The argument went back and forth, each person raising valid points. Logan Hayes, who usually stayed quiet during debates, finally spoke up. Look, I get why everyone's worried. But think about this. No one else would have done what we did. Everyone else abandoned him, including his own kind. Doesn't that say something about us? About humanity? His words hung in the air, heavy and thought-provoking. Alex nodded slowly. That's exactly my point. This is a chance to show that we're better than them. That we don't turn our backs on those who need help, no matter who or what they are. Still, not everyone was convinced. Emily Ross, the psychologist assigned to monitor the mental health of the team, raised her hand cautiously. Even if we decide to keep him, we need a plan. A real one. How will we handle his growth? His instincts? What if he becomes aggressive despite our efforts? Alex sighed, rubbing his temples. He knew they were right to be cautious, but giving up wasn't an option. We'll take it day by day. For now, let's focus on keeping him healthy and building trust. We'll document everything, his behavior, his reactions, anything unusual. If we see signs that he's becoming too dangerous, we'll reassess then. The group reluctantly agreed, though tension lingered in the room. After the meeting ended, Alex and Karen returned to the medical bay. Rin was awake, watching them intently as they entered. His ears twitched at the sound of their footsteps, and he let out a soft growl, not threatening, but wary. Karen knelt beside him, holding out a piece of dried meat. "Hey there, Rin. Still hungry?" she asked gently. At first, he hesitated, his glowing eyes fixed on her. Then, slowly, he reached out and took the food from her hand. Alex smiled faintly, feeling a glimmer of hope. Over the next few days, they worked tirelessly to care for Rin. Karen taught him simple commands using gestures and repetition, while Alex spent hours observing his behavior. Rin was quick to learn, mimicking their movements and responding to sounds. Despite his fearsome appearance, he showed moments of surprising gentleness, especially when Karen scratched behind his ears or offered him treats. But challenges remained. Every night, Rin paced restlessly, his claws clicking against the floor. Sometimes he let out low, mournful cries, as if calling for someone who would never come. It was a reminder of how much he had lost, and how much work lay ahead. As the days passed, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking a fine line between compassion and recklessness. Yet every time he looked into Rin's golden eyes, he saw not a monster, but a creature searching for connection. Whether or not they could provide that connection without putting themselves in danger was a question only time would answer. Weeks passed, and Rin began to settle into life at the outpost. His injuries healed, and his once frail body started to fill out, growing stronger with each passing day. Karen spent most of her time with him, teaching him how to interact with humans without causing harm. She brought him toys, simple things like balls and ropes, to keep him entertained and help him burn off energy. At first, Rin was clumsy, swatting at the objects with too much force or accidentally knocking over furniture. But slowly he learned control. Alex watched from a distance, impressed by the progress but still cautious. He knew that Rin's growth wasn't just physical, it was mental too. The cub was intelligent, far more so than any animal they'd encountered before. Sometimes, when Ren tilted his head and stared at them with those piercing golden eyes, it felt like he was studying them as much as they were studying him. One afternoon, while Karen was feeding Rin, she noticed something unusual. He had picked up one of the balls and dropped it at her feet, then looked up at her expectantly. "What is this?" she asked aloud, glancing at Alex, who stood nearby. "It's he. Asking me to play." "Looks like it," Alex replied, raising an eyebrow. "Go ahead. See what happens." Karen hesitated for a moment, then kicked the ball gently across the room. Rin's ears perked up, and he bounded after it, grabbing it in his jaws before trotting back to her. He dropped the ball again, waiting for her next move. A smile spread across Karen's face. "He's playing fetch," she said, laughing softly. Who would have thought? The discovery sparked a new wave of curiosity among the team. Logan Hayes, who had been documenting Rin's behavior, eagerly recorded the interaction. "This is incredible," he muttered, scribbling notes furiously. "Most animals need months, even years, to grasp concepts like this. Rin's learning at an astonishing rate." But not everyone shared Logan's enthusiasm. Sam Dawson remained skeptical, often voicing his concerns during meals or late-night discussions. "Sure, it's cute now," he said one evening, gesturing toward the closed door of the medical bay where Rin slept. "But what about later? When he's fully grown and doesn't fit in that little corner anymore? What then?" Alex sighed, tired of having the same argument over and over. "We'll deal with that when it happens. For now, we focus on building trust. If we can show him that we're not a threat, maybe he won't see us as one either." Sam shook his head, unconvinced. "You're gambling with all our lives, Alex. One wrong move, and we're done for." Despite the warnings, Alex refused to give up. He believed that Rin represented an opportunity, a chance to prove that humanity could coexist with even the most feared creatures in the galaxy. And deep down, he hoped that their efforts might lead to something greater, a bridge between two species that had only ever known conflict. As Rin continued to grow, so did his bond with Karen. She became his primary caregiver, spending hours each day training him and ensuring he stayed calm. On quieter nights, she would sit cross-legged on the floor, letting him rest his head in her lap while she stroked his fur. To the others, it seemed almost surreal, the sight of a human forming such a close connection with an apex predator. Yet there were moments when Rin's instincts took over, reminding them of the danger they faced. Once, during a routine check, Sarah Monroe accidentally startled him by dropping a metal tray. The sound echoed loudly through the room, and Rin reacted instantly, leaping to his feet with a guttural snarl. His claws extended, and for a brief second, fear rippled through the air. But Karen stepped forward calmly, speaking in a soothing voice until Rin relaxed. "That could have gone badly," Emily Ross remarked afterward, her hands trembling slightly. "We're lucky he didn't lash out." "It's a risk we have to take," Alex replied firmly. "Every step forward is worth it." And so, they'd pressed on, navigating the delicate balance between nurturing Rin and protecting themselves. Each day brought new challenges and new rewards. As Rin grew stronger and smarter, the team couldn't help but wonder, were they shaping him into a friend, or were they creating something far more unpredictable? Only time would tell. Rin's growth was becoming impossible to ignore. What had once been a small, fragile cub was now a powerful young creature, his sleek silver fur gleaming under the outpost's artificial lights. His shoulders were broader, his claws sharper, and his golden eyes carried a new intensity. The playful fetch games with Karen had turned into something more challenging. Rin's strength often sent toys flying across the room, sometimes breaking equipment or denting walls. One morning, Alex entered the medical bay to find Karen sitting on the floor, her arms crossed as she stared at a shattered monitor lying in pieces nearby. "What happened here?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. Karen sighed, running a hand through her hair. "He got excited during playtime. I tossed the ball, and when he jumped to catch it, his tail knocked over the monitor. It wasn't even on purpose." Alex frowned but didn't say anything. Accidents like this were happening more frequently. Just yesterday, Sam Dawson had complained loudly after finding claw marks gouged into his desk chair, evidence of Rin testing his growing strength. Tensions among the team were rising again. "It's not just the damage," Sarah Monroe added later during breakfast. She glanced toward the closed door of the medical bay, lowering her voice. "He's getting harder to control. Did you see how he reacted when Logan tried to take his temperature yesterday? He growled." Alex actually growled. Logan nodded grimly. "I wasn't trying to hurt him. I just needed to check his vitals. But yeah, he didn't like it one bit." Alex rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of leadership pressing down on him. He knew they couldn't keep treating Rin like a pet, not when he was quickly outgrowing that role. Yet abandoning him wasn't an option either. They had committed to this path, and turning back now would mean betraying everything they stood for. "We need a plan," Alex said finally, looking around the table. "Something to help him burn off energy safely while keeping everyone protected. Maybe we can create a controlled environment where he can hunt and explore without destroying the outpost." Sam scoffed, shaking his head. "A controlled environment? You make it sound so simple. How exactly do you plan to build that?" "It's not perfect, but it's better than doing nothing," Alex replied sharply. "We'll use the old storage unit outside. We can reinforce the walls, add obstacles, and simulate prey using drones. It'll give him space to act on his instincts without hurting anyone." The idea sparked some reluctant agreement. Over the next few days, the team worked together to transform the storage unit into what they jokingly called Rin's Arena. Inside, they installed padded walls, climbing structures, and automated targets designed to mimic moving animals. When it was ready, Alex led Rin inside for his first trial run. At first, Rin seemed confused, sniffing the air and pacing cautiously. Then, a drone buzzed to life, darting across the room like prey fleeing from a predator. Rin's ears perked up, and in an instant, he sprang into action. With surprising speed and agility, he chased the drone, leaping onto platforms and weaving through obstacles. The team watched from behind a reinforced glass window, their faces a mix of awe and apprehension. "He's incredible," Karen whispered, her eyes wide as she watched him move. Despite his size, Rin navigated the arena with precision, knocking down targets and pouncing on simulated prey with practiced ease. But not everyone shared her admiration. Sam crossed his arms, frowning deeply. "Yeah, he's incredible. And dangerous. Look at those teeth, those claws. This isn't a game, Alex. Sooner or later, he's going to realize we're not part of his pack." Alex didn't respond immediately. Instead, he focused on Rin, who had stopped chasing the drone and was now gazing toward the observation window. For a moment, their eyes met through the glass, and Alex felt a strange sense of connection. Despite all the challenges, despite the risks, he couldn't shake the feeling that Rin understood them, or at least wanted to. That night, as the team gathered for dinner, Emily Ross brought up another concern. "Even if we manage to keep him contained, what about his mental state? Apex predators are social creatures, right? Doesn't he need others like him?" The question hung heavy in the air. No one had an answer. As much as they cared for Rin, they couldn't replace his own kind. And deep down, they'd all wondered, was their bond enough to sustain him? Or was it only delaying the inevitable? Late one evening, as the team prepared to wind down for the day, Logan Hayes rushed into the main hall, his face pale and his hands trembling. "We've got a problem," he said, holding up a small handheld device. The screen displayed a series of blinking signals. Alien transmissions intercepted by the outpost's communication array. Alex Carter frowned, taking the device from Logan. "What is it?" he asked, studying the data. "It's a distress call," Logan explained quickly. "From deep space, and based on the frequency patterns, it's coming from survivors of Rin species." The room fell silent. Everyone exchanged uneasy glances. Karen Blake was the first to speak. "You think they're looking for him?" "It's possible," Alex replied slowly. His mind raced with questions. If these aliens were searching for Rin, what would happen if they found him? Would they take him back, or see his association with humans as a betrayal? Sam Dawson shook his head, his voice tense. "This complicates things. If we respond, we risk drawing their attention here. And if we don't, well, maybe they'll just leave us alone." "But we can't ignore it," Karen argued. Her voice softened as she added, "Rin deserves to know. He's been abandoned once already. We owe it to him to at least try." Alex nodded, though his expression remained troubled. "We'll decode the message fully before making any decisions. In the meantime, let's keep this between us. No need to alarm Rin or anyone else." Over the next few days, the team worked tirelessly to analyze the transmission. They discovered fragments of coordinates and garbled phrases in an unfamiliar language. It was clear the signal came from a cruiser drifting near the edge of their galaxy, its crew likely stranded after some kind of conflict. But what struck them most was the tone of the message, desperate, almost pleading. Karen began teaching Rin simple words in Galactic Common, hoping to prepare him for the possibility of meeting others like him. She used gestures and repetition, pointing to objects and naming them aloud. At first, Rin seemed confused, tilting his head curiously. But soon, he started mimicking her sounds, his deep voice rumbling softly as he tried to form the words. "Good job, Rin," Karen encouraged one afternoon, smiling as he repeated the word food correctly. "You're learning so fast." Despite the progress, unease lingered among the team. Emily Ross voiced her concerns during a quiet moment. "Even if we manage to communicate with them, how do we know they'll be kind to him? From everything we've heard, his species isn't exactly known for compassion." "That's true," Alex admitted. "But we also don't know why they left him behind. Maybe they had no choice, or maybe—" He trailed off, unwilling to finish the thought. As the days passed, Alex wrestled with the decision. Responding to the distress call felt like opening Pandora's box, a step that could bring both hope and danger. Yet ignoring it meant turning their backs on Rin's people, something he couldn't justify. Finally, Alex made up his mind. Late at night, while the others slept, he sent a carefully worded reply. The message was brief, explaining that they had found a young member of the species and were caring for him. It ended with a question. What did they want? The response came hours later, waking the entire team. A single line appeared on the screen. "Prepare for arrival." "They're coming," Alex announced grimly, showing the message to the group. Fear rippled through the room, but beneath it lay a flicker of hope. Perhaps this was the moment they'd been waiting for, the chance to reunite Rin with his own kind. Or perhaps it was the beginning of something far more dangerous. The days leading up to the arrival of Rin's species were filled with tension and preparation. Alex Carter and his team worked around the clock, reinforcing the outpost's defenses and reviewing every possible scenario. They knew they couldn't predict how the aliens would react upon seeing their young one in human care. Would they see it as an act of kindness or as a threat? Rin, sensing the change in atmosphere, grew restless. He paced endlessly inside the medical bay, his golden eyes darting toward the windows, as if searching for something he couldn't quite understand. Karen Blake tried her best to keep him calm, offering him food and toys, but nothing seemed to soothe him. One evening, she found him lying on the floor, his head resting on his massive paws, staring blankly at the wall. "What's wrong, Rin?" she asked softly, sitting beside him. She reached out to scratch behind his ears, a gesture that usually brought comfort. This time, however, he barely responded. His deep rumble, a sound somewhere between a growl and a sigh, filled the room. Karen exchanged worried glances with Alex, who stood nearby. "Do you think he knows they're coming?" she whispered. "It's possible," Alex replied. "His instincts are strong. Maybe he senses their presence." As the hours ticked by, the team gathered in the main hall to finalize their plans. Sam Dawson was particularly vocal about what might happen next. "If they're anything like what we've heard, they won't hesitate to attack us. We should evacuate while we still can, and leave Rin behind," Karen snapped, her voice rising. "After everything we've done for him, no way. We're not leaving," Alex said firmly, cutting off further debate. "But we need to be ready. Everyone stick to your assigned roles. Logan, monitor their approach. Sarah, prepare the medical supplies in case anyone gets hurt. Karen, stay close to Rin. He trusts you more than anyone." The group nodded, though fear lingered in their expressions. None of them had faced anything like this before. Finally, the moment arrived. A sleek alien cruiser descended from the sky, its metallic surface gleaming under the planet's twin suns. The ship hovered silently above the outpost before touching down in a nearby clearing. As the ramp lowered, two towering figures emerged, clad in armor that shimmered with an otherworldly glow. Their faces were hidden behind helmets, but their movements radiated power and authority. Alex stepped forward cautiously, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. Behind him, Karen held tightly to Rin's leash, her heart pounding. The cub stood tall beside her, his body tense but curious as he stared at the newcomers. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then one of the aliens raised a hand, pointing directly at Rin. Its voice, deep and guttural, echoed through the air in Galactic Common. "You have taken what is ours." Alex swallowed hard, choosing his words carefully. "We found him injured and alone. He would have died if we hadn't helped him." The second alien tilted its head, studying Rin intently. It took a step closer, causing Karen to instinctively pull back. But Rin didn't move. Instead, he let out a low whine, his tail flicking nervously. Logan Hayes stepped forward, holding up a tablet displaying footage of Rin interacting with the humans, playing fetch, learning commands, and even sleeping peacefully. "We've cared for him," Alex explained. "He's safe with us." The aliens paused, seemingly considering the evidence. After a long silence, the first one spoke again. "He belongs with his kind. If you value your lives, you will return him." Karen gripped the leash tighter, her mind racing. She glanced at Alex, who gave a slight nod. Turning to Rin, she knelt down, speaking gently. "It's your choice, Rin. Do you want to go with them?" Rin hesitated, his eyes shifting between the aliens and the humans who had raised him. For the first time, uncertainty clouded his golden gaze. Rin stood frozen, his body caught between two worlds. The aliens loomed tall and imposing, their armor reflecting the harsh light of the twin suns. Their presence radiated power, a stark contrast to the warmth and familiarity of the humans who had cared for him. Karen knelt beside him, her hand resting gently on his side, while Alex stood nearby, watching intently. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut. Karen's voice broke the silence, soft but steady. "Rin, it's okay. You can go if you want to." She tugged lightly on the leash, giving him room to move forward. Her heart ached as she spoke, knowing that letting him go might be the hardest thing she'd ever have to do. Rin hesitated, his golden eyes flickering between the aliens and the humans. For a moment, he took a cautious step toward the newcomers, his claws clicking softly against the ground. Then he stopped, glancing back at Karen. His ears twitched, and a low rumble escaped his throat, a sound that seemed to carry both curiosity and unease. The first alien stepped closer, its movements deliberate and measured. It extended a gloved hand, palm open, as if offering a gesture of peace. "Come," it said in Galactic Common, its voice deep and commanding. Rin didn't move immediately. Instead, he turned his head to look at Alex, then at Logan, Sarah, and the others standing behind them. Each face carried a mix of emotions: hope, fear, sadness, but none showed anger or resentment. They had done everything they could for him, and now they were leaving the choice in his hands. Finally, Rin made his decision. With slow, deliberate steps, he moved toward the aliens. Karen released the leash, her fingers trembling as she let it slip through her grasp. Tears welled in her eyes, but she forced herself to smile. "Goodbye, Rin," she whispered, her voice barely audible. As Rin approached the aliens, the second figure knelt down, lowering its helmeted head to meet his gaze. For a moment, there was no sound except the faint rustle of the wind through the trees. Then, without warning, Rin let out a sharp bark and nuzzled against the alien's armored chest. The figure paused, seemingly taken aback, before placing a hand on Rin's head. Alex exhaled deeply, feeling a strange mixture of relief and sorrow wash over him. He had always known this day might come, but that didn't make it any easier. "Looks like he's made his choice," he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. The aliens exchanged a glance, their expressions unreadable behind their helmets. Without another word, they turned and began walking back toward their cruiser, with Rin following close behind. As they ascended the ramp, Rin paused briefly, looking back one last time. His golden eyes locked onto Karen's, and for a fleeting moment, it felt like he was saying thank you. Then, just as quickly, he disappeared inside the ship. The ramp closed with a heavy thud, and seconds later, the cruiser lifted off the ground, its engines roaring to life. Within moments, it was gone, vanishing into the vast expanse of the sky. The team stood in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Karen wiped her tears away, trying to focus on the positives. "He chose his family," she said quietly. "That's what matters." Alex nodded, though his expression remained somber. "We gave him a chance when no one else would. That has to count for something." But not everyone shared their optimism. Sam Dawson crossed his arms, shaking his head. "And now we've just handed over a fully grown apex predator to a species we barely understand. Great job." His words hung in the air, casting a shadow over the bittersweet victory. Despite their efforts, the future remained uncertain. Had they truly done the right thing? Or had they simply delayed the inevitable? As the suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and red, the outpost felt emptier than ever. Rin was gone, but his presence lingered in every corner of the facility, and in the hearts of those who had dared to care for him. Weeks turned into months after Rin's departure, and life at the outpost slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy. The team carried on with their duties, analyzing data, maintaining equipment, and exploring the surrounding jungle, but there was an undeniable void left behind. Rin's absence weighed heavily on everyone, especially Karen Blake. She often found herself staring at the empty corner of the medical bay where he used to sleep, her mind replaying memories of his playful growls and curious eyes. Alex Carter tried to keep morale high, but even he struggled to shake off the lingering sense of loss. Late at night, when the others had retired to their quarters, he would sit alone in the main hall, flipping through Logan Hayes' notes on Rin's behavior. Each page reminded him of how far they had come, and how much they had risked for the cub. "Did we do the right thing?" he muttered aloud one evening, his voice barely above a whisper. The question echoed unanswered in the quiet room. Then, one day, something unexpected happened. As the team gathered for breakfast, Logan burst into the dining area, clutching a small handheld device. His face was flushed with excitement. "We've got a message," he announced breathlessly. "From Rin." The table fell silent. Alex stood up quickly, his chair scraping against the floor. "What do you mean, from Rin?" Logan handed over the device, pointing to the screen. It displayed a series of symbols written in Galactic Common, the same language Karen had painstakingly taught Rin during their time together. Beneath the symbols was a short audio clip. Pressing play, the group listened intently as a deep, rumbling voice filled the room. "Thank you," the voice said haltingly, each word spoken with effort, but clear enough to understand. It was unmistakably Rin. Karen covered her mouth with both hands, tears welling up in her eyes. "He remembered," she whispered, her voice trembling. He actually remembered. The message continued, accompanied by more symbols. Logan translated them aloud. "I am safe. My people, teach me. I will not forget your kindness." A collective sigh of relief swept through the room. Sam Dawson, who had been skeptical about keeping Rin all along, leaned back in his chair, shaking his head in disbelief. "Well, I'll be damned," he muttered under his breath. But the surprises didn't end there. Attached to the message was another file, a formal proposal from Rin's species. It outlined terms for a tentative alliance with humanity, offering shared knowledge and resources in exchange for peaceful cooperation. The document emphasized that this gesture was inspired by the compassion shown to Rin during his time with the humans. Alex reread the proposal several times, his heart swelling with pride. "This changes everything," he said finally, looking around at his team. "Because of what we did for Rin, we might have just opened the door to something bigger, something better." Karen smiled through her tears, clutching the device tightly. "He didn't forget us," she repeated softly. "Not for a second." As the news spread, the outpost buzzed with renewed energy. For the first time in weeks, laughter echoed through the halls, replacing the heaviness that had settled over them since Rin's departure. Even Sarah Monroe, usually cautious and reserved, allowed herself a rare smile. "Maybe taking care of him wasn't such a bad idea after all," she admitted. That evening, as the twin suns set over the horizon, the team gathered outside to watch the stars appear one by one. They talked about Rin, his quirks, his intelligence, and the bond they had formed with him. Though he was gone, his impact remained, shaping not only their lives, but potentially the future of humanity itself. In saving Rin, they hadn't just changed one life, they had rewritten their place in the galaxy. And as they stood together beneath the vast expanse of space, they couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope for what lay ahead. The message from Rin and the proposal for an alliance sparked a wave of excitement and debate among the team. While most were thrilled by the possibility of peace with one of the galaxy's most feared species, others remained cautious. Sam Dawson was quick to voice his concerns during their next meeting. "This all sounds great on paper," he said, crossing his arms tightly. "But how do we know it's not a trick? What if they're just using this as a way to get closer before turning on us?" Alex Carter understood the skepticism, but refused to let fear cloud his judgment. "We can't base our decisions on what-ifs," he replied firmly. "They've reached out first, and they're offering something valuable: knowledge, resources, cooperation. If we turn them down, we're throwing away a chance to change how the galaxy sees us." Karen Blake nodded in agreement. Rin trusted us, and now his people are extending that trust. Doesn't that mean something? Sam frowned, but didn't argue further. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, clearly unconvinced. The rest of the team, however, seemed ready to take the risk. After hours of discussion, they agreed to send a reply accepting the proposal, emphasizing their commitment to mutual respect and understanding. Over the following weeks, communication between the humans and Rin's species became more frequent. Messages were exchanged regularly, each one building toward establishing formal terms for their partnership. Through these exchanges, the team learned more about Rin's people, their culture, their history, and even hints about why Rin had been abandoned. It turned out his mother's ship had been part of a battle fleet ambushed by enemies, leaving her no choice but to flee with her injured cub. When she perished in the crash, Rin was left behind, not out of cruelty, but necessity. The revelation hit Karen hard. She spent hours replaying the details in her mind, imagining what it must have been like for Rin to lose everything so suddenly. "It makes sense now," she told Alex one evening as they sat outside under the stars. He wasn't rejected because he wasn't wanted. He was left because there was no other option. Alex nodded thoughtfully. And maybe that's why his people responded the way they did when we took him in. We showed them that compassion isn't weakness, it's strength. As preparations for the alliance continued, the outpost received another surprise. Coordinates for a meeting place. Rin's species invited the humans to visit their home world, a rare honor never extended to outsiders before. The invitation came with assurances of safety, along with detailed plans for travel and accommodations. Excitement rippled through the team, though nerves lingered beneath the surface. Emily Ross voiced what many were thinking. This is huge, like galaxy-changing huge, but what if things go wrong? What if we say or do something that offends them? We'll be careful, Alex assured her. Every step we take will be deliberate. This isn't just about us. It's about showing the rest of the galaxy that humanity can rise above fear and mistrust. When the day finally arrived, the team boarded their shuttle with mixed emotions. As they approached the alien planet, its surface shimmered with vibrant colors, unlike anything they had ever seen. Towering structures made of reflective materials stretched toward the sky, blending seamlessly with the natural landscape. It was breathtaking and intimidating. Upon landing, they were greeted by a delegation of aliens, including two familiar figures. One stepped forward, removing its helmet to reveal sharp features and glowing amber eyes. "Welcome," it said in Galactic Common, its tone calm but commanding. "You have honored us with your courage and kindness." Behind the group, a larger figure emerged. Rin. He had grown significantly since their last encounter, his sleek silver fur gleaming in the sunlight. His golden eyes locked onto Karen's, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. Then, with slow, deliberate steps, he walked toward her, stopping just inches away. Karen held her breath, unsure of what to expect. But instead of growling or snarling, Rin lowered his head gently, nudging her hand with his nose. Tears filled her eyes as she placed her palm against his cheek. "Hey there, big guy," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Looks like you're doing okay." For the first time in months, the weight of uncertainty lifted. In that moment, surrounded by both humans and aliens, it felt like the beginning of something extraordinary. The meeting on the alien homeworld unfolded in a way none of the humans had anticipated. Rin's people welcomed them with a mix of curiosity and cautious respect, their towering forms moving with an elegance that belied their reputation as ruthless hunters. The delegation led Alex Carter and his team through sprawling cities, filled with shimmering architecture, where technology blended seamlessly with nature. Streams wound through crystalline pathways, and bioluminescent plants cast soft glows across the landscape. As they walked, Rin stayed close to Karen Blake, his massive frame casting a shadow over her smaller figure. Every so often, he would nudge her gently, as if reassuring himself that she was still there. Karen couldn't help but smile, even as tears threatened to spill from her eyes. "You've grown so much," she murmured, running her hand along his sleek fur. "But you're still the same Rin." The aliens observed this interaction silently, their glowing eyes taking in every detail. When they finally reached a grand hall at the center of the city, one of the leaders, a tall, regal figure with intricate markings on its armor, stepped forward. Its voice resonated through the space as it addressed the humans. "Your actions have proven your worth. You cared for one of our own when we could not. For that, you have earned our gratitude and our trust." Alex bowed his head slightly, choosing his words carefully. "We didn't do it for recognition or reward. We did it because it was the right thing to do. Compassion isn't limited to any one species. It's something we all share." The leader tilted its head, seemingly intrigued by Alex's response. After a moment, it gestured toward Rin. "He has spoken highly of you, of your kindness, your patience. Because of you, he carries a piece of humanity within him. And we see value in that." Karen glanced at Rin, her heart swelling with pride. Despite everything, he had remembered them. The lessons, the bond, the care. It was clear his people respected what the humans had done, and that realization filled her with hope. Over the next few days, the humans and aliens worked together to finalize the terms of their alliance. The discussions were thorough but respectful, each side eager to learn from the other. Plans were made to share knowledge about sustainable energy, medicine, and interstellar travel. In return, Rin's species offered access to resources and technologies far beyond anything humanity had developed. On their final day, the aliens hosted a ceremony to mark the beginning of their partnership. Underneath a sky painted with swirling colors, the two groups stood side by side, exchanging tokens of goodwill. Rin remained at Karen's side throughout, his presence a bridge between worlds. As the ceremony drew to a close, the alien leader approached Alex once more. "This is only the start," it said. "Together, we can build a future where fear no longer divides us." Alex nodded, his expression resolute. "We're ready." When it came time to leave, saying goodbye to Rin proved harder than anyone expected. Karen hugged him tightly, burying her face in his fur. "Take care of yourself, okay?" she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Rin let out a low rumble, resting his chin on her shoulder briefly before pulling away. As the shuttle lifted off the ground, the teen watched through the windows as Rin and his people grew smaller below. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Logan Hayes broke the silence. "Do you think he'll be okay?" Karen smiled faintly, wiping away a tear. "He's strong. Smarter than any of us gave him credit for. He'll be fine." Back at the outpost, life resumed its rhythm, but the impact of their journey lingered. News of the Alliance spread quickly, reaching Earth and sparking debates across the planet. Some hailed it as a monumental step forward. Others viewed it with suspicion. Yet for Alex and his team, the outcome was clear. They had changed not just their own lives, but the course of history. In saving Rin, they had shown that compassion could transcend boundaries, even those between species. And as they looked toward the stars, they knew the legacy of their actions would ripple through the galaxy for generations to come.